Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the debut record from I Am Your God, The Resurrection, out October 23rd on Out of Line Music. The album has 10 tracks and is 41 minutes in length. This band is heavily influenced by Children of Bodom and In Flames. It's clear the moment you start listening to this album. They took a lot of the elements that those bands have, added their own twist, added their own fragrance to it, and that's the album that you have in your hands. An album that at times is not as fluid as it could be. That to me is one of the main problems with this record. The overall structure is very abrupt. It's not continuous. You could grab the same 10 songs and change the tracking listing and create a much better overall structure that engages the listener at the beginning, keeps the listener engaged all the way to the end, allows the record to be more dynamic, more fluid, more continuous, and not as abrupt, stop and go as it is right now. That to me is perhaps the main faux pas, if you will, of this album. But it's a debut record. I'm going to call it a growing pain, something that they can look at for the next album, improve upon, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect the overall quality of the music or the tracks themselves, because the tracks are dynamic. It's just how they're ordered, how they're paired up, that it takes a little bit of away the sting, the power of the overall experience of listening to the album. Musically, this record is very diverse, is very dynamic, really merging the world of heaviness with a world of melody almost to perfection on every single track. The tracks really feel that they're coming alive. They push you up, they bring you down, they have different moods depending on where you are within the track, and they have a very significant and warmth overall sound to it. And that sound is really driven by three main core elements: the guitars, the drums, and the keyboards. The guitars are very alive on this record. I love the energy that they have. They're definitely the guiding light of the overall sound. They push every single track forward. They're really in the driving seat on every single song. They determine the tempo, where the track is going, how heavy, how melodic the song is, and they're really dictating everything that happens musically on this record. The drums could have had a bigger role. In my opinion, in some tracks, I wish they were a little bit more heavier. They could have a little bit more presence without taking anything away from the guitars or the overall soundscape or the overall experience of the songs. I just felt that they were stripped of their power more often than not. But they balanced them in a way that still allowed the songs to sound heavy because the presence of the guitars added volume to the overall tracks. But once again, I really feel like they should have added a little bit more strength on the drums, allow the drums to come a little bit more to the forefront, not as much as the guitars because you really want them to be the drivers of the sound. But the drums could definitely play a much bigger role. There are some songs where they do, and you feel the strength, the volume grows on the tracks, the songs become a lot stronger. So by listening to those songs, it made me wonder what could have been overall if they had increased that power across all 10 tracks. Last element is the keyboards. I love what they did here. They could have easily gone overboard, which seems to be the case with most bands these days, adding keyboards at every single turn in order to create melody and atmosphere and drive the melody forward within the tracks. That's not the case, and I applaud them for that. They added a few slivers of keyboards here and there within the songs, sprinkled them throughout the record. Not every song is going to get them. Some songs get a little bit more, some songs get it a little bit less, and some songs don't get it at all. But I love that. It was just a fragrance. It was just a layer to the overall sound. It added to the soundscape, it added to the melody, it added to the overall design of the tracks. And that's one of the elements that really brought that Children of Bodom vibe to the forefront, at least to me. Because in some tracks, Children of Bodom really pushes the keyboards forwards, but there are songs where they allow them to be more of a layer in the background. And these guys took that second approach, which in my opinion, for their sound, for their approach, for their style, works 1,000 times better. I don't want an album like this to be driven by keyboards or allow the keyboards to overtake the overall experience of listening to the record. I want that job to fall on the drums, on the guitars, and definitely on the vocals, but not on the keyboards. Now, speaking of vocals, by the way, I love how dynamic the vocals are on this record. As dynamic as the sound is, and as dynamic as the guitars are, switching from melody to heaviness, you're going to get exactly the same thing from the vocals. Now, you're going to get predominantly screaming vocals, but there's a lot of clean vocals on this record. But I love the balance. Once again, they didn't go with this modern approach that becomes almost repetitive, where you get one style in the verse, one style in the chorus, and that formula almost gets repeated ad nauseum throughout an album. That's not what they did here. They really created a very interesting album from a vocal perspective because they gave the record one predominant approach: screaming vocals. This is what we're going to go with. And then here and there, as a flavor, as a fragrance, as a layer, similar to what they did with the keyboards, they did with the harsher vocals, changing it into clean vocals. I love that approach. I love the way they put it together. It makes the album seem fresh at every single turn. It allows the songs to feel fresh and, once again, not sound repetitive, not sound mundane, not sound like a record that I've heard 1,000 times before. Overall, kudos to these guys. This is a very interesting debut record, perhaps one of the better debut records of 2020. There's obviously a lot of room for improvement, and you expect that from a debut album. It's nearly impossible for a band to release an album being their first one and not see some mistakes here and there, and not see the growth that the band could develop and move on into the next album. That's definitely there. But the foundation, the baseline, the quality, the talent is present with this record, and I believe they're going to attract a lot of fans to the band, and then it's a matter of what they can do to keep them and expand upon it. Now, as far as tracks are concerned, I want to start off with 3 songs that I really enjoyed on this record. Outside of the singles, these 3 are just outstanding tracks. Flowers on Your Grave. This is a Children of Bodom song. It has a lot of the Children of Bodom mechanisms to it, and I love how this track sounds. It's just so fresh, it's so driven, it's so melodic, heavy at the same time. The drums really have a much larger presence on how this song is put together from a sound perspective. The synthesized melodies really come in and they sparkle themselves in. They're not there from the beginning all the way to the end in the background as a layer. They are there, but they disappear. They come back again, then they disappear. Very fainted as you move throughout the song, but the impact that they have to the overall style and overall approach of the song is absolutely enormous. It really creates melody, creates atmosphere, makes the song a lot bigger, feel a lot larger, and making a more robust overall track. I love how it works. I love how it sounds. I also love some of the backing vocals that they did on this track. It really added great dynamic mechanisms within the song itself, creating peaks and valleys, not only musically, because those are there, the keyboards make sure of that, but vocally you get those same peaks and valleys. Perfect blend of heaviness and melody. Next, Silent Killer, great tempo. This song really pushes some weight forward. You feel like it's a heavy song, but still melodic and still pushing itself forward at a great tempo. I love the energy that it has. The screaming vocals really match not only the song, the energy that the song has, but also the tempo that the track has. So the two really go hand in hand perfectly well from the beginning all the way to the end. This is overall a very relentless track. You just feel like this is a track that perhaps even gains energy as it moves along. It definitely becomes a little bit more intense and a little bit more aggressive as it progresses. So there's a tendency to feel like this is a track that has a little bit of a build up to it, and it continues to build up as it starts to move along all the way to the end of the track. I just love how the song is put together, and I love how it's delivered. I love the energy that it has, how robust it is, and like I said, that sense of growth as you progress through it. Last but not least, this is my favorite song on the album, Fall With Me. I would call this a ballad, but this is really a metal ballad because it grows as well. It starts off really stripped down with acoustic guitar. It really sets the tone. It sets the melancholy that this track has, the sadness, the haunting atmosphere of the track. But musically, it evolves, it grows, it adds elements, it adds strength, it adds layers, it becomes heavier as it progresses. So it's your prototypical ballad in how it's built and how it is delivered. I love the fact that they went with clean vocals for this one. You had to. For a song that has this approach, this atmosphere, this style, you definitely have to go with clean vocals overall, being the predominant style, still including harsh vocals towards the end of the song, almost as a second layer, because it still has clean vocals. They just added harsh vocals on top of it. But that works perfectly well, because as a metal ballad, it starts off acoustic, it builds itself up, it grows, So they decided to not only grow the track musically, but also grow the track vocally, which fits perfectly well with how this track is overall constructed. A very beautiful, haunting track, and the cleaning vocals make sure it stays beautiful and haunting almost all the way through, beginning and end, regardless of how stripped out it is at the beginning and not as much at the end. But I love how this song is constructed. I love how it sounds. I love how it feels. This is it, guys. I Am Your God, The Resurrection, once again out October 23rd on Out of Line Music. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.